Hello to today's episode of The Untold with me, your host, Abdullah Al-Hindiani. For today's episode, we have an aspiring filmmaker, Abdullah AlShatti, who is going to be talking to us about the journey going through filmmaking, pursuing this kind of field, especially for people who are new to it. You know, it's going to be an experience of freshly new eyes. So with that in mind, stay tuned. We'll come right after the break. And we're back with Abdullah AlShatti, and I do want to first welcome you on The Untold. So, hello.
Thank you for having me.
Thank
Very
you.
nice to be here.
Thank you. And, for the audiences who might not be familiar with you, this is your opportunity to basically introduce yourself to us.
My name is Abdullah AlShatti. I'm a media and communication student, and I'm a part-time photographer.
Yeah.
Usually doing more freelance things rather than more professional things.
Yeah.
But hopefully, once I'm done with my major, I can actually make it a profession.
Oh, so would you say photography, that's not your major in university,
No,
right?
it's not. It is a part of it, though. There
Yeah.
is a lot of photography
Yeah.
courses.
And so what is about photography specifically that you fall in love so much in it that you want to pursue that?
It's the power of storytelling through very minimalist things. For example, you can do the same thing with paintings.
Yeah.
I would have gotten into paintings, but I'm not that talented, so I decided to just use a camera instead. Make
Yeah.
the job very easy. But it's also how to control the elements of the picture. You can make one really powerful message with one frame.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, I've always been into storytelling, and I thought this was the best way to get into that scene.
So, the thing you said about the one frame could have so many stories, it immediately reminds me of, the marketing campaigns, especially the ones we see from the United States. And I'm sure you've studied a lot of those, but we're not going to mention so many names. But, it really highlights some pictures where you see a picture and you immediately know what brand that is. You
Yeah.
immediately know what story it's trying to say. So like you say, yeah, every frame can say so many different kind of stories. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
It's just a matter of detail. If
Yeah.
you don't control the lighting, if you don't control the framing, and if it's very haphazard, it just turns out into whatever. It's just there for the sake of being there. There's no
Yeah.
purpose behind it. But if you have a clear idea and you have a clear purpose and you convey that message clearly, it makes people want to relate. It makes people want to see you and wants to chase you, and it makes you more motivated to make more to that, and to bring more to it. And the whole thing is that now I think, especially in our current times, is that you've seen the same stories one too many
Right,
times.
yeah.
So what my goal is to try and have people see, aside from authenticity, is just relatability.
Yeah.
That you can see everyday things within these frames, but it just makes them feel something more.
Yeah. This also reminds me of someone, I forgot who, it was like a Hollywood director or writer that says all the stories have been told. Now it's just how you tell it, right? You're basically taking old stories and it's your kind of image, it's your kind of story, it's your kind of take on it. And is that the end goal for you? You want to be a photographer, or is there something else you want to pursue?
The main goal is filmmaking.
Filmmaking, yeah.
Yeah. But that's gonna take a lot more time than photography. But right now, hopefully by next year, I will be making more short films,
Inshallah.
inshallah. But that's gonna be very for fun, more of a hobby, more for people who care about being there rather than just doing it for the experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I think that we, especially our generation, well, my generation, really lacks passion.
Right, yeah.
You can see a lot of people now like, what do you want to do in your life? And it's just, I don't know. And I'm like, what do you mean I don't know? You're living day to day,
Yeah.
and there's no goal, there's no plan. They just go, yeah, I'm just gonna wait and see what happens. And I don't like that. I was raised to be very calculated
Yeah.
and to think 10 steps ahead.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I can't really, I don't know, I can't really relate to them. But it's not their own fault, in my opinion. I just don't like the way that is. And I want to, at least in terms of storytelling, to bring people together in a way that nobody has to hide what they want to do. They just do it. And you can just be yourself unapologetically. And that's the goal. that hopefully in a long time that I can bring that message to the people of my generation and the generations after me.
Yeah. And speaking of bringing the messages, like I know we're talking, in the future, but something that's shared among so many great guests we've had on the show is that what started as a passion or hobby eventually ended up becoming the thing they work in and the thing they love the most. So I do hope it works out for you.
I hope so,
Yeah.
and that's generally the plan.
Yeah.
And seeing people like that who have something so small who turn it into something so big, that's inspirational to me.
Right.
That makes
Yeah.
me just want to work harder.
Yeah.
So I try to surround myself with these people because I very much believe in the phrase of you're a product of your environment.
Right. Yeah.
And if you're a part of an environment that's not really pushing themselves to be better, you go nowhere.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why I'm so glad that I'm the youngest sibling, is because they always push themselves further, which in turn made me want to push myself further and made me learn
Yeah.
a lot. And that's how I got to where I am right now, and I couldn't be more happy.
And it's good, it's so good to set goals from early on because, like you said, a lot of people are just kind of aimless and wandering through life. They go along. But if you have a goal, you know your next step, right? If you have a goal, you know where to take left and right. So it's always good to have that kind of, perception on time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a very weird conundrum
Yeah.
because a lot of people have what they want to do, but they don't know how to get there.
Right. Yeah.
But the best way I can explain it is that there is no set path.
Right. Yeah.
You can just get there. It'll take time. Some paths might take longer than others.
Right.
Some paths might take shorter than others, but you'll still get there.
Yeah.
So why worry about it? Why stress about the how instead of just trying?
Just trying. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you never try, you go again. Same thing. You go nowhere.
Yeah.
And that's something I completely dislike. But with everyone in my life, I try to push them to at least try something. If you don't like it, don't do it.
Yeah.
But try it at least.
Yeah, I think
Experiment.
I think that's the key takeaway is to try and experiment. Yeah.
Exactly.
And speaking of the end goals and the path, I know you said you want to be a director, basically a filmmaker. So what sparked that kind of passion, right? What got that idea into you?
Growing up, we used to always have family nights. We used to watch movies all the time.
Yeah.
And we used to be like this family thing. We'd go to the cinemas and it's always stuff like that. And then I'd find myself wanting more, if that makes sense. I would
Yeah.
just want more of what I saw on screen, or want more of what I saw in that story. And so there was a day I was 15 years old. So this is around 7 years ago, 7 or 8 years. And I'm approaching graduating high school.
Yeah.
And my father asks me, "What do you want to do?" I said, I want to get into film. And he goes, "What do you mean?" Like, "I want to get into film." He goes, "So think realistically here. Like, what happened to, like, you can go to get into engineering. You can...
Yeah. Yeah.
I told
parents.
him, "I'm not gonna do that. I want to get into film." And he just looks at me. He sits down and just goes, "Go for it."
MashaAllah.
And I was surprised, honestly.
Yeah.
But I couldn't be more happier, because ever since then, all my family's done is support me.
MashaAllah.
And even it gets to points even now where they're like, "Oh, like, there's this opportunity and there's that opportunity. You can do this and you can do that." And they suggest ideas, and some of them work out, and it's really, really fun to have such a supportive group of people around you.
Yeah.
And so, like, now when I have some projects, for example, I did this little music video / trailer for this play, and my brother was with me in the editing process. He goes, "Why don't you do that?" Or like, "Why don't you try to do
It's
this?"
like a family project.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
my brother is not super into this type of stuff, but to have him there with me and suggest these ideas, and the same goes for my sister,
It means a lot.
it means a lot to me.
Yeah.
And it just makes me comfortable and makes me know that I'm on the right path.
Yeah.
And I love that.
And that's so amazing to hear, and this is another great thank you for your family, especially for the amount of support they gave you, right? From your parents all the way to your siblings. And I think a lot of people underestimate the amount of help just basic simple support can have to, not just for your career and pursuits, but to make you feel better.
Yeah. It's strange nowadays because there's a lot of people who really do, like, will benefit off of this help,
Yeah.
but they refuse the help.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't know. I think a little bit of help goes a really long way.
It goes a
Obviously,
long way,
not to the point where you need the help to succeed, but to have that little extra boost,
yeah.
it has such a big effect. And I couldn't have gone to where I am right now without so much help, without from my
Yeah.
family, my mentors, some of my friends.
MashaAllah.
Like I wouldn't have been able to get here. And
Yeah.
so I just like don't I my suggestion is don't be afraid. Get some help. It's
Get
fine.
some-
If you
yeah.
need it, get it.
Yeah, I think that's a great message to get out because for some reason, a lot of people are afraid to ask for help. And I have no idea why, right? Because we as humans, we are meant to help each other. Basically, we are community. And so to see your community come together to help you in your pursuits, it's so amazing to hear.
And I think that's like especially in Kuwait,
Yeah,
being such a small country, there's so like you're so much more closer to people who are like you than you actually realize.
yeah,
So there's a lot of people who are into like numbers and stuff, and there's a lot of you can go get help from them, and they're right around the corner from you. And for example, where I study, there's a lot of people who are like afraid or shady with it, and
yeah,
they don't want to ask directly, so that it goes through multiple people. But it's like I made amends with it all, and I
yeah,
like even if it's someone I'm not a big fan of, I will put my ego to the side and I'll go and work with them just so I can learn, at
yeah,
least for the experience, and maybe it'll just the relationship grows from there. And I think that's such an underrated thought process.
yeah. And speaking of underrated thought processes, I do want to ask you about something that is so underrated in your pursuits. For so many people, taking major steps, especially when it comes to their passions, their field of work, it could take years. But you immediately jumped in. Like, talk us through that. Like, what gave you such a confidence boost?
I didn't have a confidence boost. I was afraid the first time I did it, and I'm not gonna lie, throughout the whole process of the first time I was doing it, I thought I was messing everything up.
Oh,
I genuinely thought it was all the like whether it was the pictures or the videos or even the edit. I thought it was horrible, and
oh,
I kept doubting it and doubting it and doubting it. And we finished like it was a part of a play, like the one I mentioned earlier. And this on the last day of the play, I submitted the video. I was completely in shatters. I was losing my mind over how bad this video was in my head.
oh,
And I also had the job of manning all the cameras during the show. So we finished from that, and the director told me to come downstairs and go to the backstage. And what they decided to do was because they all knew that I thought it was a horrible video. What they decided to do was they decided to play it on the big screen in the
oh,
theater.
yeah,
And I lost my mind. Like I was completely losing. I was shaking. I was like, this is the worst thing ever. Everyone's gonna hate this. My life is ruined. I'm not gonna be a director. And then I got a standing ovation.
mashallah.
And I was like, like I was
Yeah,
completely like I was sweating. They dragged me out on stage, and I was like, okay, don't drag me out on stage next time. But I'm glad that
yeah,
everything happened the way it did, because that the end result is what gave me the confidence boost. I'm
yeah,
like, maybe I do have this. Maybe I can do this.
yeah.
And from then on, it was just smooth sailing for me.
And I think that's a great lesson to have such an early stages on is that you shouldn't be your own critic, right? You shouldn't criticize your own work. And I think that was a great lesson to know
Oh
that
yeah,
you've had circle who knew and appreciated your work.
and just to not be overly hard on yourself. I'm not someone who likes my ego to be too inflated, so I won't
Yeah,
let myself like get too arrogant. I try to humble myself as much as I can.
yeah,
I have people around me who can consistently humble me, which I'm glad for. But it's the fact that you should know when you're doing enough.
right.
And a lot of people don't feel like they're doing enough, and it drives them crazy. But to know that you're doing just enough to get there, to stay humble, but to be satisfied with what you're doing, goes a long way.
Yeah,
So I think that's one component that people should remind themselves of, because it leads to stress and it leads to anxiety and breakdowns and
yeah,
all these like bad events happening. But to remind yourself at least once a day, to remind yourself that you're doing that, or to get reminded that you're doing that, goes a really long way.
yeah. And I think that's a very beautiful message to wrap the segment on before we go on a very quick break is that you gotta have your circle of support, and then you gotta have a yes man and no man for you in order to persevere in this kind of journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a better. It was for those same people to be the yes and the no man.
Yeah.
Because if you have one group saying yes and one group saying no, it gets confusing.
So it's got to be both.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
has to just be an equal line down the middle where someone will support you and give you the support you need, but also make sure that you stay humble and not to get ahead of yourself.
Right. And with the message staying humble, we are going to take a very quick break and we'll come right back after this one. And we're back with aspiring filmmaker Abdullah AlShatti, and I want to ask you more for the second segment of the interview about filmmaking. And specifically, what is, from your experience so far, what has been the biggest myth, about filmmaking that you knew wasn't true?
That there's a limit to your creativity.
Okay.
And that there's a limit to what you can do. I know a lot of people who want to be filmmakers, but they don't have the equipment for it.
Right.
And the one thing I always tell people is that it doesn't matter what camera you have, it doesn't matter what lights you have. If the story is good enough and it resonates, you'll go far.
Right.
And there's a lot of, I talked to one of my professors about this, and he's been one of the biggest mentors I've had for years now, maybe 5 or 6 years. Me and him have been talking to each other, and it got to a point where there's now a side course that he created, which is like a workshop, which is called mobile videography, where
mashallah.
So
Right.
cameras are banned and lights are banned, and the job is to just use your phone.
Use your
and
phone.
you use the phone and you write a script and you just film it, and it doesn't matter what the shots are, it doesn't matter how the visual language is, as long as the story is good enough.
Right.
And so many people have been working with him, and so many people have been going far with him, and I love the fact that he did that for everyone, because it takes you so much further than you need. It heightens the ceiling for how far you can go creatively.
Yeah.
And it's such a nice and such a warm feeling you get to see when you have people running around, and you see people running around all over the country, in كل مناطق, in every single area of the country, just with their phones and just filming stuff, and then you see the results on Instagram, and it's the power is really in the edit.
Yeah.
And it's such an accomplishment to see people, and to see Kuwait specifically building that bridge now, that we're
Right.
going further now in terms of filmography and all that, and I love it.
Yeah. And honestly, I love how you emphasize the idea that there's no limit to creativity, and that all the tools you have are within your hands, right? The phone. And I do remember Steven Soderbergh, who made, I believe, Traffic and the Ocean 11 movies.
Yeah.
He got so sick of asking for money and millions of dollars to make movies. He shot 2 movies, 2 actual Hollywood movies. One of them was even nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah.
2 of them were shot from phones.
Yeah.
And even the latest one, 28 years later, it was shot on a phone as well.
Yeah, it's amazing. And there's also I don't know if you've heard of Ryan Coogler. He made Black
Ryan
Panther,
Coogler,
he
yeah.
made Creed. He made a film called Fruitville Station.
Fruitville Station, yeah.
And
Michael
that
B.
was
Jordan.
that whole movie was filmed with one camera,
It's amazing.
and it's just such an amazing thing to see.
Yeah.
But it's sad that not people really grasp that idea, because that movie was made in the early 2010s.
Yeah.
So over 14 years ago now. And I wish that people grasped that idea before thinking they could just jump into the deep end now.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, they think that it's as simple as you just go and ask for this set amount of money, because all movies are $200 million now,
Yeah.
and you can just do whatever you want, which is not the case at all.
And yeah, like I said, we have all the tools. Like people before would need, film reels, they would need cameras, but now you just have, high-tech technology.
Phone now,
Right.
Some phones now, like the latest iPhone, is more powerful than cameras.
Yeah.
And it's why are you stopping at that?
Right, yeah.
And it's such a big question that nobody really has the answer to.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are afraid to admit that it basically boils down to laziness, probably.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Because, okay, if you don't have a camera, I mean, right now the new trend is gimbals
Right.
and lights and stuff like that. You can have a flashlight, You can buy mini gimbals for that are made for phones, and it's crazy
Right. Yeah.
how technologically advanced we've gotten now. From we're making blockbusters with iPhones,
Yeah.
and I don't know, like I don't see the issue with walking around and grabbing a video and or grabbing a camera, which is an iPhone, and just trying it out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
We also highlighted several, I would say, film directors. So I want to ask you about your style in particular. Was there a director or movie that influenced your style? Something you study constantly?
the, the director that I resonate with the most, because his story is my mentality, which is Quentin Tarantino.
Quentin Tarantino.
He made Pulp Fiction. He made all these
Yeah.
great movies. He didn't go to film school. He grabbed the camera and he just filmed stuff.
Yeah.
And it worked. And now he's one of the most accomplished directors of all time.
Yeah. He's great. Amazing writer as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he doesn't write necessarily the most relatable characters, but he writes characters in a way which is, it's all reading between the lines for him.
Right. Yeah.
So why does this character struggle? He'll have this false bravado and he'll have all these struggles that we can't really relate to. But if you read between the lines, the devil's in the details.
Right.
And so his story is the one I love the most. In terms of who I think is best storytelling wise, it has to be Nolan.
Yeah. Christopher Nolan.
He, to this day, has not made a film, I think, that you can't see yourself in the main character to a
Right.
degree.
Yeah.
Well, obviously nobody's going to relate to Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
But if you watch Memento, which is about someone who forgets a lot. He has
Yeah.
like Alzheimer's.
Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Al Pacino. Great
Yeah,
movie.
exactly. And he forgets everything. And every time he forgets something, he tattoos it on himself to remember.
Yeah.
Which I think is something that is really underrated, is to have a journal with you,
Yeah.
to write everything down, which is something I do in my pastime as well. So I'll go home and I'll write stuff down of what I did during the day. I did that with my internship. I did that with my classes. I did it with everything. It's not notes. It's just what you did throughout the day.
Right. Yeah.
And it just helps you remember everything and
Right.
keep you organized. And I love that.
Yeah.
That's such an underutilized tool for you, and it's free.
Yeah.
If you don't want to write things, I prefer to write things down physically. But if you don't want to do that, you have a phone with a notes app.
Yeah.
You can use that.
And what's amazing is that you mentioned Memento, which was starring Guy Pearce. And Christopher Nolan has a very famous video about the writing process for Memento, where all he has is a board, and then he's basically describing how the timeline works.
Exactly.
So like he made an entire movie based on a board and sketches. So
And it's really great. And in terms of that, there's some, like, you can even make an argument for Sin City by Frank Miller. They didn't have a script.
Yeah, it's just storyboards.
Just and the storyboards they used wasn't even real storyboards. It was the comic that the movie was based on, and they just used the frames from that to create the aesthetic of the movie.
Right. Yeah.
And it's, again, you can make a lot with a little.
Yeah.
And I don't think people nowadays can do that. You won't find anyone doing that nowadays.
I think the craziest story I've heard is, I think he's called Jean-Luc Godard, which is a French filmmaker, he made Loup Samurai. And I believe I got an interview with the actor, and he said that the whole movie, like the entire movie, which is like 2 hours, was on 4 pages of sticky notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is basically ridiculous to think about it.
And where are you gonna find that passion now?
Right.
It's nowhere to be seen. People want the improvement to come to them. I always say that people are always permanently at a 90%.
Yeah.
Like they're operating at 90%. That 10% is everything else.
Right. Yeah.
And that 10% is also the hardest 10% that you can add to yourself. And obviously I don't think anyone's going to get to 100, but to at least try to get to it.
Yeah.
It's great. I had a conversation with a psychology professor once, and he brought up the term called excellence in thought.
Okay.
And I asked him, does a concept like that exist? He says, no. The purpose isn't to achieve that. It's to try
to achieve that. Okay.
And I hope that him saying that really helped out everyone that he taught.
Yeah.
Because in order to achieve that, you just have to keep trying.
Right.
And
yeah.
you just don't give up. A lot of people, they really lose their motivation when they fail once or fail twice. But there's a lot of people also as well who are, unfortunately, the minority here, who don't give up.
Right.
and those are the people who always end up being the most successful.
Yeah.
For example, we have Robert Downey Jr., for example,
Right.
who was a controversial figure in the early 2000s, and he had a lot of mishaps in his life,
Right.
in his
Yeah.
early career, and now he's one of the most well-known household names that there is,
Yeah.
and it's a testament to his just sheer willpower
Yeah.
that he willed himself back to the position that he's in, and I think that's a big struggle for people nowadays, and it's unfortunate
Yeah.
in the long run.
Yeah, like a lot of people are too afraid of failure that they end up not trying at all. They're like, let me stay in my comfort zone. I don't want to step in any kind of danger zone.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and I don't like that. In
Yeah.
all honesty, to keep it simple, it's just not. I don't think that there's any accomplishment in that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think you'll find it very hard to see any quote from any successful person in any kind of environment, any field, that says, I quit after the first few blocks or
Yeah.
first few obstacles. It's always the same, right? Try and try and try. Eventually, you'll get there.
exactly.
Yeah.
And there's some, like, the people who are the most idolized, from athletes to actors, they are that example,
Right.
and people look up to them,
Yeah.
but they don't try to. They don't try it,
Yeah.
and it's unfortunate, especially because, in my experience with people who are in my age, it's hard to get along with these people
Right. Yeah.
because you have so much going for you. You have so much potential, but you would much rather prioritize the short and instant versions of enjoyment rather than the longer term one that's gonna pay off.
Yeah. It's like they'd rather stay in the safe lane instead of trying and go for the, in baseball terms. And I know a lot of people watching are going to be like, what is he saying? But they are afraid of going for the home run. So
Exactly.
they're staying on the base.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we are, unfortunately, have ran out of time for this segment.
Okay.
But I do want to thank you again.
Of course.
And
Thank
I
you
do-
guys for having me.
Yeah, thank you. But I do want to ask you and leave you with one last question, is that because you are an aspiring filmmaker and you're just starting, mashallah, what kind of advice do you have for someone sharing similar kind of boots?
Don't get in your own way.
Yeah.
Don't let your negative thoughts affect the positive effects you can have on this world.
Right.
And it's a hard thing to do, but discipline is key, not motivation.
Yeah.
If you keep trying and trying and trying, you'll go far. And just never allow anyone else to get in your way. Don't let yourself get in your own way, and just keep driving.
Right.
That's all I have to say.
I mean, that's, what more could be said, right? That was beautifully put. So I do want to thank you again for sitting with us, Abdullah. So again, thank you.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me so much. This was a wonderful experience.
Thank you. And with that, unfortunately, we have reached the end of the conversation segment on The Untold, but stay tuned because we'll come after the break. And with that, we have reached the end of today's episode of The Untold. Unfortunately, that was all the time we've had, but Abdullah was kind enough to share with us. And the thing I loved the most about today's episode is how, I wouldn't say philosophical it took, but how motivational it was. Abdullah was kind enough to talk to us about the mentality that it takes to pursue, dangerous kind of fields in terms of, stability. And it was really fascinating to sit down and talk to him about it, all of that. With that, we have reached the end time of The Untold, but until next time, goodbye for now.